Legend of Condor Heroes, Chapter 1, The Whispering Shadows. In the turbulent twilight of the Southern Song dynasty, the martial world teetered on the edge of chaos. Across the shifting landscapes of mountains and rivers, sects clashed in silence and fire, while heroes and traitors shared the same blade. It was during this fractured era that a boy named Yang Guo, son of the condemned traitor Xiangyang, entered the world, unwanted, untrusted, and unbroken. Raised by the Quanzhen sect on Mount Zhongnan, Yang Guo's early life was one of resistance and punishment. He was rebellious, clever, and wild, with a streak of defiance inherited from a father he had never known. While other disciples chanted sutras and practiced righteous forms, Yang Guo sneaked into forbidden scroll chambers and imitated martial techniques meant only for elders. But knowledge could not shield him from cruelty. Ridiculed for his lineage and beaten for his questions, Yang Guo found little compassion within the sect's rigid walls. Only the gentle Zhao Jijing showed him occasional mercy, though his kindness was as fleeting as a falling leaf. On one bitter winter night, while nursing bruises beneath a cold moon, Yang Guo stumbled upon an old cavern behind a waterfall. Drawn by the soft humming of qi, he entered and found a mural depicting a phoenix and dragon locked in eternal combat. The cave once belonged to Lin Xiaoying, founder of the ancient Tomb sect. There, fate whispered. Not long after, an encounter with a mysterious white-robed maiden changed his path forever. Xiaolongnü, ethereal and distant, emerged from the mists like a ghost of ancient poetry. Though she spoke few words, her presence silenced even the wind. She was the sole heir to the ancient Tomb sect, a style of martial arts shaped by silence, stillness, and deadly grace. Xiaolongnü took him in, defying both the rules of her sect and the judgment of the martial world. Deep within the chilled halls of the ancient tomb, Yang Guo began to unlearn the cruelty of the outer world. He trained beneath moonlight, danced among falling petals, and began to discover not just power, but purpose. But the world would not let him rest. Even as Yang Guo healed and grew strong, rumors of his heritage spread. Sect emissaries came knocking, demanding explanations, warning of the imbalance his presence created. One night, as thunder cracked across the heavens, Yang Guo stood beneath the plum tree outside the tomb. Beside him, Xiaolongnü watched the rain. "Do you regret taking me in?" he asked. She did not answer immediately. "I regret nothing," she said softly. "Only those who fear love live with regret." Thus began a bond the martial world could not understand, and in that bond a storm was born. Chapter 2. Winds Across Mount Hua. Mount Hua stood like a celestial blade piercing the heavens, its ridges crowned with ancient temples and its cliffs soaked in centuries of blood. Here, the 5 great sects once dueled for supremacy. Now, the mountain waited for new storms to rise. Word of Yang Guo's defection spread swiftly, carried by merchants, monks, and spies. Whispers painted him as a heretic, a ghost child of darkness, trained by a demonic woman in a tomb. But some whispers spoke of his elegance in battle, of his shadow-like footwork, and of a sword style that danced like moonlight on water. The martial world was uneasy. Soon, Yang Guo and Xiaolongnü left the tomb to travel across the realm. They visited ancient ruins, forgotten libraries, and hidden masters, each step bringing them closer to the true nature of their arts and the truth of Yang Guo's past. Their love deepened, forged in the solitude of mountain paths and the terror of narrow escapes. On one such journey, they saved a village from the wrath of the Iron Palm sect. The sect's enforcer, Wu Chuchu, a former beauty turned cruel by tragedy, recognized Xiaolongnü's techniques. "You fight with ghost hands," she hissed. "Are you the White Witch?" Xiaolongnü said nothing. Yang Guo stepped forward. "We are travelers, but if you raise your hand again, I will make sure it never rises a third time." Their battle was brief and explosive. Yang Guo's techniques defied convention. He parried at odd angles, countered with elegance instead of brute force. Even seasoned cultivators began to whisper, this was no mere boy. In the aftermath, survivors whispered a new name, Condor Hero, a name that sparked awe and fear alike. Soon their path led to Mount Hua, where a martial gathering was to be held, one that would shape the future of the Jianghu. The Wudang sect, Shaolin monks, Beggar's Clan, and many others arrived in ceremonial splendor. Tents billowed like sails on a sea of snow. Yang Guo's appearance sparked outrage. "A traitor's son! Here!" roared an elder, but others watched in silence, noting the steel in his eyes and the calm he radiated. In the sparring matches, Yang Guo faced disciples of renown. With each bout, he unveiled not arrogance, but beauty. His sword work was like calligraphy, every stroke etched with conviction. Even his enemies could not deny it. Later that evening, as torches lit the dark slopes, Xiaolongnü stood beside him. "They fear what they cannot name," she said. "And I will give them a name to remember," he replied. As wind howled over Mount Hua, a new chapter in the martial world began. Chapter 3. Blood and Blossoms. Spring unfurled slowly across the mountains, but the tension within the martial world only grew thicker. As cherry blossoms bloomed crimson along the riversides, Yang Guo and Xiaolongnü departed Mount Hua and journeyed deeper into the lands where power bred betrayal. Their path led them into the territory of the Beggar's Clan, whose leader, Elder Q, had summoned all regional branches. War loomed on the horizon. A foreign sect, known as the Golden Serpent Union, had begun to spread its influence across the southern provinces, devouring smaller clans and corrupting leaders with wealth and poison. Yang Guo offered his blade. "I am no clan member, but my sword is sharp and my feet are swift," he said. "Let me walk into their den." Elder Chu hesitated. "A lone wolf invites the hunter." "I've been hunted all my life," Yang Guo replied. With Xiaolongnü watching from the forest edge, Yang Guo infiltrated the enemy's encampment hidden beneath the ruins of a noble estate. There he uncovered something chilling, remnants of Quanzhen scrolls, the very sect that once raised and rejected him. They had been sold to the Golden Serpent Union. Betrayal had long arms. A confrontation followed, swift and savage. Yang Guo dueled the twin serpents of the Union, two brothers who moved in mirrored patterns, their spears like flowing ink. But Yang Guo's movements, sharpened by tomb silence and love's clarity, broke their unity. His blade sliced through the rhythm of their attack, dismantling their coordination piece by piece. By the end, only silence remained. In the aftermath, he set fire to the scrolls. Some truths were better burned. He returned with blood on his blade and sorrow in his heart. Xiaolongnü said nothing, but in her silence he found solace. But the battle had drawn attention. A group of mercenaries ambushed them that night in the village outskirts. Yang Guo, injured and weary, fought like a wounded animal, relying on instinct and Xiaolongnü's presence to push through. It was then he discovered something. When fighting for more than survival, his strength surged beyond technique. The martial world was changing. Alliances shifted. Legends were questioned. And as Yang Guo stood beneath falling blossoms, he knew he would no longer run. The world had chosen war. And so had he. Chapter 4. Veins of Stone, Threads of Fate. Yang Guo and Xiaolongnü, as journey led them next to the treacherous Stone Vein Gorge, a place whispered of in taverns and cautioned in temples. The gorge was a battlefield of ages past, where the bones of fallen sects still lay buried beneath layers of dust and silence. They came not seeking battle, but knowledge. A reclusive monk, known only as Iron Ink, resided deep within the gorge, said to possess records lost since the Great Sect War. Yang Guo sought answers. not just to his father's legacy, but to the path ahead. Finding iron ink was no easy task. The gorge was filled with traps left by long-dead warriors. Silent blades emerged from rock faces. Poisonous mists danced with the breeze. Each step tested their trust and bond. But Yang Guo's instincts, honed by survival and solitude, guided them through. Xiaolongnü's light step and ethereal movement turned each obstacle into a dance. They faced a ghost snake, a creature bred from key imbalance and battlefield resentment. It lunged from shadows, its body shimmering with cursed scales. Working in harmony, the two lovers trapped it within a fallen shrine and used reflective shards to confuse its senses before striking it down. The battle reaffirmed something sacred. They were no longer merely student and master. They were soul-bound. When they finally found iron ink, the monk was blind and ancient, his body bent like a willow, yet his voice carried the weight of thunder. "I felt the disturbance in your chi before you arrived," he said. "Your heart is split in two. I am the son of betrayal, loved by none," Yang Guo answered, "but I will carve a future with my blade." Iron ink listened and revealed secrets hidden for decades. Maps of sect betrayals, scrolls detailing ancient techniques, and, most importantly, the existence of a sealed manual, the 9 Heavens Divine Scripture. It was said to grant unmeasured understanding of martial flow, but at the cost of one's humanity. Yang Guo hesitated, but Xiaolongnü placed her hand on his. "Power without purpose is a burden, but I will walk beside you." That night, as moonlight spilled across the ancient scrolls, Yang Guo made his choice. Iron ink gifted him a single verse from the manual. As Yang Guo practiced it beneath a waterfall that night, the power in his veins resonated with the world around him. He felt qi pulse through every breath, every heartbeat, every memory. The world would not grant him peace. He would take strength, bear its cost, and reshape fate itself. The path to becoming a true hero was forged not in glory, but in blood, silence, and love. Chapter 5. Shadows over Xiangyang. The sun had barely risen when the warning drums sounded from the fortress walls of Xiangyang. General Guo Jing, his armor dulled by years of battle, stood surveying the field. The Mongols had returned. They had regrouped, reinforced, and returned with vengeance in their eyes. Yang Guo and Xiaolongnü arrived to a city on edge. Walls groaned with tension, soldiers scrambled with purpose, and civilians whispered prayers into the morning mist. Guo Jing, surprised yet relieved to see the young couple, welcomed them. "I've heard of your deeds," he said to Yang Guo, "but war is a different beast than swordplay." Yang Guo bowed deeply. "Then let me learn from the beast." In the weeks that followed, Yang Guo immersed himself in the defense of Xiangyang. He patrolled the outer villages, coordinated with martial clans who answered the call to arms, and studied the Mongol formations. Xiaolongnü offered her talents in quieter ways, training healers in pressure point mending, securing food routes, and lending calm to frightened refugees. But as battle loomed, betrayal found root once more. A trusted scout, once loyal to Guo Jing, was discovered passing maps to the Mongols. Captured and exposed, he spoke of a shadow sect working from within the city, the Mirror, Shade Sect, known for illusion techniques and manipulation. Their goal wasn't just the fall of Xiangyang, it was chaos. Yang Guo hunted them in the alleys and tunnels beneath the city. There, amid flickering torches and stone-damp corridors, he faced enemies who could mimic voices, wear stolen faces, and vanish into air. Yet his instincts, sharpened by pain and love, saw through their deceit. He left a trail of fallen shadows behind him. When the Mongols attacked, they were met not by fear, but unity. Yang Guo led a daring ambush that turned the tide of battle. With Xiaolongnü by his side, they cut through enemy ranks like wind over wheat, their movements poetry and fury. By nightfall, Xiangyang still stood. and the world took notice. Chapter 6. The Whispering Sword. The battles had paused, but Yang Guo's journey had only grown heavier. Among the Mirror Shade's remains, he uncovered a map inked in invisible key, visible only under moonlight. It led to the ancient sword-whispering valley, a forbidden ground said to house blades of forgotten legends. Whispers claimed a sword there once belonged to the Dragon King himself. Compelled by fate and curiosity, Yang Guo and Xiaolongnü traveled westward. The path was perilous. Bandits who spoke of lost gods, mountain storms that broke stone, and a strange child who followed them silently until vanishing at a shrine's gate. The valley was hidden behind a waterfall's heart. To enter, one had to bleed onto the stone and speak the name of their truest regret. Yang Guo hesitated. "Say it," Xiaolongnü whispered. He bled and whispered, "Mother." The waters parted. Within, blades sang without sound. Rows of swords hummed on stone pedestals, their spirits dormant, waiting. The sword of the whispering flame, as the map foretold, stood at the center. When Yang Guo reached for it, voices surged through his veins. Not words, but feelings. Sorrow, purpose, vengeance, and the weight of legacy. He gripped it, and it burned him. Visions stormed his mind. His father's execution, his mother's tears, Xiaolongnü's smile, the blood he had spilled, the peace he had forfeited. He screamed but did not let go. When it ended, the blade shimmered softly, and the valley was silent. Xiaolongnü approached, fear and awe in her eyes. "Does it speak?" Yang Guo nodded slowly. "It sings, of destiny and war." Together they walked out of the valley, the blade wrapped in silence. For beyond the mountain lay the capital, and destiny awaited them still. Chapter 7. The Phoenix and the Serpent. The capital of the Song Empire shimmered like a mirage in the distance. Golden roofs piercing the clouds, flags fluttering in a breeze that carried secrets of 1,000 years. But beneath its grandeur, politics twisted like vines, each courtier a predator in silken robes. Yang Guo and Xiaolongnü arrived under aliases, their names whispered too loudly in the wake of their deeds. Though they bore no royal invitation, they had something far more potent, the sword of the whispering flame and the favor of Xiangyang Itza's defenders. Yet the capital was a different battlefield. Inside the palace, the emperor remained bedridden, an ailing boy surrounded by wolves. Ministers plotted, eunuchs whispered, and the Empress Dowager ruled from behind the curtain, her face veiled and her heart unknowable. Rumors surged. A rebellion was brewing, a serpent sect slithering beneath the city, bribing guards and poisoning minds. When General Guo Jing's letter of commendation reached the court, Yang Guo and Xiaolongnü were summoned. They stood in the Phoenix Hall, watched by nobles and monks alike. Some saw heroes, others saw threats. Lady Jinghua, niece of the Dowager and famed martial poetess, challenged Yang Guo to a ceremonial duel, not for blood, but for insight. "The sword reveals truth," she said, drawing her jade-tinted blade. Yang Guo answered with the whispering flame. Their blades clashed beneath cherry blossoms, songbirds fleeing at every strike. Yet with each movement, Lady Jinghua read Yang Guo's soul, his sorrow, his fury, his restraint. In the final stroke, she stepped back and bowed. "You are not the serpent," she said, "but you carry its bite." That night, an assassin crept into the emperor's chambers. Yang Guo was already waiting. The assassin bore no clan markings, but his style, sharp, abrupt, relentless, matched tales of the Serpent Shadow Sect. Their blades were dipped in oil made from phoenix tears, rumored to sever soul from flesh. They fought in silence, interrupted only by the emperor's ragged breathing. When it ended, the assassin lay dead, but not before whispering, "You cannot stop the eclipse." The capital stirred with dread. Yang Guo had drawn the blade in court. He had slain within palace walls. Politics demanded blood. But the Empress Dowager spared him. She summoned Xiaolongnü in secret and asked one question. Does he love power more than peace? Xiaolongnü answered, he loves only truth. The Dowager let them leave, but the sword of Whispering Flame was to remain in the palace, for now. Yang Guo walked away with empty hands but a fuller mind. He had glimpsed the future, not of swords, but of shadows yet to come. Chapter 8. The Fire Between Mountains. Weeks turned to months. Yang Guo and Xiaolongnü journeyed north, following rumors of a hidden sect gathering strength near the Flameheart Peaks, jagged mountains said to contain fire beneath their skin. Their path brought them through lands scarred by war, famine, and plague. They helped where they could, mending broken carts, healing villagers with Xiaolongnü's herbs, teaching children how to wield sticks like swords. Their legend grew, and so did their enemies. In a ruined monastery, they were ambushed by a dozen masked disciples of the Serpent Shadow Sect. Their leader, clad in crimson-scaled robes, introduced himself as Wei Feng, a defector from the beggar sect, now master of deception. You should have joined us, Yang Guo, Wei sneered. We reshape the world while you cling to its ruins. You reshape nothing. You only burn, Yang Guo replied. The battle was chaos incarnate. Xiaolongnü fought like moonlight on water, graceful and fatal. Yang Guo, without his famed sword, relied on raw skill and ingenuity, turning broken wood and steel into weapons. When the dust settled, Wei Feng was gone, but not defeated. They reached the Flameheart Peaks, where a forgotten sect, the Fire Monks, revealed themselves. Clad in ash and silence, these monks once guarded a celestial forge believed to birth divine weapons. The Whispering Flame had been forged there once. Now the forge stirred again. The monks spoke of an omen. A blade of memory shall return to be reborn. And Yang Guo, guided by dream and echo, returned to the mountain's core. There, in the molten chamber, he saw the outline of his sword, encased in crystal and light. The monks gave him a choice. To reclaim the weapon, he must sacrifice memory of his greatest love. Yang Guo looked at Xiaolongnü. She stepped forward. We do not love in memory. We love in presence. Let go. He did, and the sword returned, forged anew, brighter, calmer, heavier with silence. A phoenix etched into its hilt, a serpent engraved in its spine. The fire monks bowed. The sword is yours. So is the war it calls. Yang Guo emerged from the mountains with steel in his grip and fire in his heart. The final battle loomed, and this time the world would burn or be reborn. Chapter 9. Storm over Xiangyang. As Yang Guo and Xiaolongnü descended the Flameheart Peaks, a messenger on a dying horse intercepted them, bearing a blood-soaked scroll from Guo Jing. Xiangyang was under siege. The Mongol army had returned, stronger and crueler. The outer defenses had fallen. Even the famous city walls, once thought impenetrable, bore cracks from endless trebuchet fire. The time for hiding was over. Xiangyang's gates welcomed them with sorrow. The streets were filled with makeshift barricades and smoke. Children carried arrows, old men sharpened spears, and atop the battlements stood Guo Jing, resolute despite his graying hair. His armor was dented, his eyes sleepless, but his voice carried the weight of unbroken resolve. He embraced Yang Guo without a word. Between them passed the silence of soldiers who had both seen too much and lost too many. There was little time for reunion. The Mongol army had forged an unholy alliance with the Serpent Shadow Sect. Wei Feng now led their vanguard, his crimson robes visible across the battlefield like a bleeding flag. Their combined forces encircled Xiangyang with precision and malice, choking supplies and severing escape. Yang Guo stood on the walls and addressed the people. We fight not for kings or titles, but for the hearth, the song, the breath of peace. Let them come. We are the storm they feared. That night, the final battle began. Xiangyang became a crucible. Yang Guo moved like a wildfire, his sword now whispering louder, guiding his every motion. Xiaolongnü danced beside him, her presence a balm to despair. Together they wove a rhythm of steel and light. Archers covered the walls with flame. Sentries rang bells made from broken shields. Thunder rolled from catapults on both sides. Wei Feng found them atop the south wall, and the duel began. You gave up your past for power. You're no better than us, he hissed, circling with viper grace. I gave up the past to protect the future, Yang Guo replied, stepping forward with the calm of inevitability. Their fight was legend. Sword against serpent flame, memory against malice. Each strike painted a different fate in the night sky. Buildings crumbled beneath their feet. Flames licked stone. Soldiers froze to watch. Wei Feng's serpent blade coiled and hissed. Yang Guo countered with the reborn, whispering flame, now glowing as though lit from within. In the end, it was Xiaolongnü's blade that turned the tide, catching Wei Feng off guard and slicing his mask away. The moment of weakness was enough. Yang Guo's sword plunged through. Wei Feng fell, his last words a curse swallowed by the storm. The serpent was slain. Chapter 10. Ashes and Spring. The siege lifted. The Mongols retreated. Xiangyang stood, battered but unbowed. Its people emerged from ash and ruin like seedlings through soot. They sang old songs, they buried heroes, and they rebuilt. But the victory was costly. Guo Jing was mortally wounded, pierced while defending the final breach. In his final breaths, he handed Yang Guo a scroll marked with the seal of the imperial sword-bearer. The empire needs more than soldiers. It needs souls, he said, eyes fixed on the morning sun. Yang Guo and Xiaolongnü did not stay. They vanished into legend, traveling not as heroes but as wanderers. Through forests reborn from fire, through villages saved by sacrifice, they walked. Where there was darkness, they brought light. Where there was silence, they brought song. They healed rifts between sects, taught balance to the proud, and reminded the lost of hope. Years passed. Myths bloomed. Children in distant villages pretended to wield a sword that whispered truths. Lovers carved their names beneath cherry trees, swearing loyalty like the heroes of old. And old monks nodded knowingly when the wind carried echoes of fire and silk. The world did not forget. For though the blade now slept, sealed beneath a mountain cloaked in cloud and fern, its fire lived on, in every heart it touched. And somewhere, beneath moonlight and stars, two silhouettes still wandered side by side. Not as warriors, but as the last defenders of a dream worth remembering.